Hi, Gary Chillingworth here for Egg Gunner Magazine and Shooting and Country TV. Welcome to Life at the Range. Yes, we're finally here, the HW98 video that you've all been waiting for and I've been messing up on a regular basis. Okay, I've had lots of emails saying, Gary, what have you got wrong? Well, I'll be 100% up and honest with you. There was nothing wrong with the internals because the TBT kit that we're going to be using today is so simple to use, anyone can do it. But what the plan is, and we'll show you later down the line, is I was building a muzzle weight to go on the front of the gun to help reduce flip. That's nice and simple. But the idea I had is I had a nice little bracket, a piece of PVC tube, which I filled with lead powder and was going to attach it to the front of the gun. Well, we were about 3 hours before the video went live. I sent it to a friend of mine who's much cleverer than I am. I said, Gary, you are aware that lead is incredibly toxic. And even though the powder that you've bought should be okay, there are lead powders that you can buy that might not be so good. So I had to pull the video really quickly, and because I'm not going to risk doing something that could be dangerous. Now, we're still not 100% sure whether or not those leads are correct. So we're going to be leaving the muzzle weight for a future video, but today we're going to be focusing on the internals. So that's about it. TBT, we're going to strip the gun apart, we're going to sort the internals, we're going to be talking to the fat man in the conservatory, so this should all be good. So hopefully today we won't mess it up. This is going out on Thursday, so I hope you all enjoy it. Welcome to Life at the Range. Okay, so the HW98, in my opinion, probably one of the most beautiful break barrel air rifles there is. Obviously made by Viarc, imported by Whole Cartridge in the UK. Reason I love this is I'm a target shooter. Adjustable cheek piece, adjustable butt pad. It's really well balanced. It's relatively light. It's easy to cock. It's super accurate. But they do recoil quite a lot. And that's because these are German. And in Germany, they run at 6 foot-pounds. So that when you buy one of these in the UK, Viarc have uprated the power to make it to 12 foot-pounds. And one of the ways they do this is sometimes they put in a longer spring, but other times they put in essentially a large muzzle weight in front of the spring to act as a top hat. Now, as we all know, Newton's third law of motion, every action equal and opposite reaction. When you cock something and everything goes flying forward, with that big heavy muzzle weight, forces the gun to come back. So if you've got lighter internals, the recoil is going to be lighter. Heavier internals, the recoil is going to be heavier. Hi, welcome to the conservatory. Okay, we are going to fit a TBT drop-in kit from Tinbaum Tuning, or Tinbaum Tuning. I've used these for years. They're in all my TXs. I always recommend you buy the spring guide and the spring together as a set, because then that way they will fit the spring guides to the springs at the factory. Because you know when you shoot a spring gun you get that horrible twangy sound, that's because of an ill-fitting spring guide at the back. So if they fit it for you, then you're not going to get that horrible twang when you shoot the gun. Now, taking the stock off is relatively easy. For some reason, I don't have the cheek riser in the gun. For some reason, that's come out. So all you need to take the stock off is a flathead screwdriver. We'll take this out, and then underneath there should be 2 washers. The first washer down is one of these grip washers, and then just a standard flat washer, which is what protects the wood. Put those one side. I should have got my pot. In fact, where is my pot? Right. Always put things like that in a pot, because I guarantee you, if you don't, the spring gun gremlins will steal any bits you have lying around, and you will spend hours looking for them. Into the pot. Again, flathead screwdriver. We'll just take the trigger guard off. Not quite. And there we go. Put that in the pot. And then the stock will just lift off, and we'll put that to one side. Okay, next we need to get the trigger mechanism out. So what we're going to need to do for this is we're going to need a punch, and we are going to need a small hammer or a cosh. And no, that's not a Vorlon. Babylon 5 joke for you there. So take a nice pair of rubber handled pliers, and we'll put them over the top. We'll take our punch, and you've got basically 2 punch pins here. Place that on top, and they just come out nice and easy. Make sure it's lined up over the hole. There you go. You see the pins come out. For a much better video on how to do this sort of thing, go onto the TBT website, or sorry, the TBT Facebook page, and they have got much better videos on how to strip down and actually fit one of their kits. So I would strongly recommend you do that. Okay, so trigger mechanism just drops out like that. Okay, next thing we need to do is take the barrel off. Now, taking the barrel off is easy. Putting the barrel back on, that's an entirely different matter. Now, we have already checked. Obviously, we've made sure that the rifle is unloaded, and that has all been checked. Now, as you can see here, this side we have just a screw with a slotted top. That just comes off. Okay, so when we've removed the cap, I like to just cock the barrel fractionally, and then we just get it nice and fitted in the leg. And then once you've got it partial the way through, again, use your punch, and we'll just tap it the rest of the way. Make sure you're not hitting the table like I am. As I've said before many times, I am totally cack-handed, but the whole point of this is if I can do it, you can do it. And I apologise for all the actual proper tuners out there who are currently going, oh my God. Now, the next thing you need to know, obviously, take your threaded bit and your washer out, put that in your pot. Sitting underneath here will be 2 shims. There should be 2 shims. Now, these are really important. Do not lose these. Put them to one side and keep them safe. And they sit obviously on the side here, and they sit on the inside of this section here. So we will put those to one side, and then we will take our barrel with our cocking shoe, and we'll put that to one side and keep that nice and safe. So we now have the barrel, we now have this section here with the trigger taken out, and now we are going to remove this section here. Okay, now we get on to the tricky bit. Yeah, I know what you mean. Now, you will see on here, now that we've taken the trigger mechanism out, we've got these 4 blocks. One here, one here, one here, and one here. And these blocks come out. Now, this rifle has been apart in the past, so they're relatively easy. So you can get one out, and then you just put a little rod through, like that. Just give it a little tap with your cosh, and that one goes flying out. Now, what is this? This is an Allen key that has just had a little bit cut off the end, and it's got a little bit of bend on it. And what you do is you take your Allen key, you put it in the hole, take your flat bladed screwdriver, and you use it to lever it out, and it goes flying across the room like that. Then you take your Allen key, you put it through the hole that it was already in, you give it a little tap, and then the next one comes out. I'll bring it a bit close so you can just see what it is. All it is just a piece of metal with a push pin, but the first time they come out, they can be really quite sticky. Really, trust me, quite sticky. I'll be honest with you, I found this, the first time I did this, quite tricky. As I said, I'm not a gunsmith, as you can clearly see, but the whole point of doing this is so that you can see how I do it, and you'll be considerably better at doing this than I am. If you do not have strong fingers, you are going to struggle with this. I'm not the strongest guy in the world, but you know, I'm okay. The good thing is TBT do actually have proper gunsmiths who can do all this for you. If you speak to them, they can put you in touch with people, and you just send them your gun and give them the specifications that you want it done to, and then they will fix it and they will send it back to you. There's obviously a charge for it, but speak to them. Right, so the next thing you need to do is take the trigger housing out. Now, to do that, you will need a coin. I'm using a pound coin. If you're someone like Terry Doe, you could probably use a golden guinea. So you put that on, and what you need to do is place this on top and then push down. Hopefully this will work. And you just take up pretty low. Do you hear that clicking? And when it clicks, you rotate it. Nearly there. Again. And then it will just pop out. We'll just give this a little rotate with fiddle-dee-dee. Yeah, don't do that. Don't point it at your conservatory window and it will go flying across the room. Okay, I will just have a look to see if my wife saw that, and I'm going to be in trouble. Okay, right, well, yeah, the conservatory glass is fine. Holy moly. That went with some velocity, didn't it? Right, so yeah, so basically, don't do what I just did and try to use this with a screwdriver, because Newton's third law of motion, every action is compressed spring. What did I think was going to happen? What an idiot. Oh, yeah. So as you can see now, that's basically goes in there and it goes into that little slot just there. Then you release, keeping it pointed down onto the table, not pointed in that direction. And then you can slide this section out and put it to one side. Right, okay, now we're going to take the spring and spring guide out, and let's see how we go. But I'm going to go for a cup of tea. My wife is sitting in the other room ready to shout at me. So I'll be back in a minute after I've done some really deep apologising. Sorry. Okay, I'm suitably told off. Right, so let's strip this down. Here is the Viroc spring with the Viroc spring guide. Really quite loose. With a metal top. The thing that I'm really surprised at is that they don't have a top hat. So, okay, so now we're just going to remove the piston. And inside the piston, here is the piston. Now, this has already been, say, it's cleaned slightly. What a lot of people do is they polish the piston. Obviously, it needs to be lubricated when it puts back in. Now, something you might need to do is check your rifle is where the cocking shoe goes in. Make sure that there aren't any burrs or anything along these where the cocking shoe, where it cocks, so it slides up and down. Because when you push the piston in, because it's not actually sitting inside of a sleeve like you would get with the TX, it's just sitting within the tube. If there are any small burrs on there, that as the piston goes up and down, it's going to catch on that burr and it will actually damage the piston head. Now, we're having a quick look at the piston head and running my finger around, and it feels fairly good. Now, okay, so you now have your piston, which we're going to polish up, or you can polish up and clean, and then obviously you need to lubricate it and put it before you put it back into the rifle. But with a lot of TBT kits, you get a thing called a short stroke. Now, to fit a short stroke, the first thing you need is a cup of boiling water. So we will put that in there. Oh, you can see why I'm rubbish at HFT, miss. That's boiling water, so we're going to drop that in there and we're going to let it heat up. Now, what a short stroke does is essentially it makes the piston slightly longer. So when you fire the gun, it increases your lock time. So from the point where you pull the trigger to the point where everything expands and the pellet goes flying out the barrel is less. So if you're on a standing shot and you're wobbling about and you get that crosshair into the kill zone and you pull your trigger, that fraction of a second could be a big difference. So that's becoming a little bit more malleable while it's sitting in the boiling water. So we're going to fit the short stroke. And remember what I said a little while ago about being careful because some of these things in here are really sharp. Yeah, I'm having a good day today. I almost took out the conservatory, slashed my finger open. Oh yeah. I like to use the back end of a knife. So push it up with your thumb so you can see a tiny little gap. Just try. That's why I use the back end of a knife. And then it comes off. Check your seal to make sure you haven't damaged it, which I don't think I have. Check around the top of your piston, make sure you haven't damaged that, which I don't think I have. And then use your pliers to get your top hat out. So obviously you just want to pop it on. So using all the weight you can. If you can't do this, find a fat person like me to do it for you. And there you go. It just snaps in. Now we just want to put our seal back on. So again, we'll drop it in the hot water. We'll let it become malleable and then that will come off. In fact, come to think of it, in hindsight, maybe I should have just stuck this in the hot water as well and made that seal more malleable, and that would have made it easier to come off. As I said, we're learning as we're going. Watch the TBT videos. They are genuinely superb and they will actually guide you much better than what I am doing in my cack-handed way here. I must admit, I'll be 100% straight with you. I'm not really sure if you're actually going to see this video because there is a big part of me that's thinking that I've totally messed this up. Should I really point it out to you? So please tell me in the comments below, do you want to see a really slick professional video all the time where it looks like I know what I'm doing? Or are you happy to me put out stuff like this where I truly show how incompetent I am at things like this? I can shoot a gun. I can't always work on a gun or fix a gun. Speak to people like Nigel Wood. Nigel Wood really knows what he's talking about. You can find him on Facebook. He's really, really good at stuff like this. Okay, let's get our seal out. Been in there for a minute or so. We'll get rid of the water. And let's see if this just pops on. There you go. God, look at that. To quote Jeremy Clarkson, I did a thing. So as you can see, our piston is now longer than it was before, and it's ready to go back in the gun. We're not going to polish it today, but what a lot of people do is they use something like Auto Sol and a Dremel with a buffing kit, and they really polish up these cylinders, and then before they lubricate them and put them back in the rifle. So what we're going to do now is we're going to lubricate it, and we're going to start putting everything back together. Okay, so we have our TBT spring guide. Be honest with you, I got a little bit overexcited and I lubricated it, and I forgot to press record on the camera. As I said, really not having a good day today. So nice amount of lube on there, not too much. Give the spring a little wipe over with lubrication. I've pre-lubed the top hat as well. So we now have our piston, which you can either have polished or unpolished. Take some moly, and we're actually going to put some moly on the piston. Not too much. I'll put up a picture of the piston when it came out the gun, and you will see how much lubrication was actually on it. So we just wipe that on, not much, and then we'll place some just behind the piston seal. Just wipe it with your finger. If you put too much, you get dieseling, that terrible smell, and it can actually increase your power. It's really important when you are working on rifles, you must have a chronograph. It's really important because obviously you're messing around with things that could affect the power. You know, this piston is now longer than it was before, so that will probably increase the power. So before you start working, you must have a chronograph. So we'll take our piston, we'll slot it back in. Take our spring, slot it in. And now, oh yeah, be careful of that, that can slide out. It's just a little captive nut that slides in. Put that on top. Need our coin back. And now we're just going to start putting it back together. Line it up. Don't point it at your windows. And there we go. Now it's time to put the trigger mechanism back in the rifle. So the first thing we do is we set the trigger with our flat-bladed screwdriver. And what I like to do is I like to put the pins partially the way in. Sorry. Now remember, there are two lengths of pin. This is the front one, the longer one, which sits at the front, and the shorter one sits at the back. So we'll just put that in. Just start it off. And then the second one, we'll just start that off. And then we'll take our trigger, put the hook in first. And then we concentrate on lining it up. It's all lined up. Now, push that in, get that down. Okay, that's lined up. Little tap, and then just use our... Now I know some of you are thinking, why am I using this piece of lead? I'll be honest with you, I've got quite bad arthritis in my hands, and holding this like that and tapping it is easier than using something long, and I have more control. Also, I can't find my little hammer. So these are now lined up and flush, and they've got to be set correctly, because when you put it in the stock, it fits so tightly around here, you're going to struggle to get it in your stock. So before you put the barrel on, just take your stock and just make sure that fits in. Yep, that fits in lovely, so they're in the correct position. So now we are going to put the barrel back on, which, oh sorry, before I forget that, we need to put our little lugs back in. That's nice and easy to do. You can see they only go one way. Now, you can hit these directly, but they just, because they've been out a couple of times, you can just push them in with your thumb, or I can. That one won't. And now we've got that one. So they just snap in like that. Right, I'm going to get something soft to put on top, because I'm going to need to, hang on, there you go. I just put a, I don't like hitting metal on metal, so we just put the rubber handle of that screwdriver. I know it's brutal, isn't it? There you go, and they're all now in and flush, and that is now absolutely solid in. So now let's get the barrel on. With some of the TBT kits, you get this, which is TBT bum slide. Now, this is a really nice molly. It's actually quite gritty, but it lasts quite a long time. A lot of people I know absolutely love this stuff. I like to put a little bit on the cocking shoe, and I like to put a little bit just around the cocking linkage. Okay, so we're now going to replace the barrel. Take our barrel, insert our cocking linkage, so our cocking shoe onto the cocking linkage, and then offer that up, and then make sure that slides on. Now we're going to slide, now that that's in, we're going to line everything up. Now you'll notice on the left hand side you have got a thread, and on the right hand side, sorry, on the right hand side you have a thread, and on the left hand side you don't. So you want to go in from the, obviously from the side where you don't have a thread. Slide your shim in and make sure that that's completely aligned. Take your bolt with your spring washer and just start to drop that through. Turn it over. And you remember in what we didn't do the shim on the other side, so we'll just loosen that off a bit. Take our other shim. We'll just slide that in. Make sure that's fully aligned. And then just screw that in. Then take our nut, screw that on as well. Tighten. Make sure you've tightened both sides. And there we go, all back together. So now all we need to do is take our stock, Put our first stop out in, just hold it in place. I put one side in first, make sure it's all lined up. Just finger tight. Trigger guard. Tighten that up. And then our flat washer. Put that on. And then you check your pot. And to make sure you haven't missed anything. And I have. So can't remember which side is the screw and which side is the bolt. There you go. Right hand side is the nut. So we just drop that on top. Our little spring washer. Drop that in. Yeah, that hurt me as well. One of the main advantages with making this video, is at least I'm not going to get any messages from people on Life at the Range asking me to work on their guns. As I said, I'm having a go at this. I'm not a gunsmith. It's easy putting a TBT kit, but I am really cack-handed. I'm just no good at this sort of thing. I can shoot guns. I'm just not particularly good at working on them. But there are brilliant tuners out there. I mean, speak to people like Tony Leach, Richard Nash, Nigel Wood. Speak to TBT and say they do have professional people who can do this kind of stuff for you, who know what they're doing. But trust me, if I can do this, then so can you. TBT do some great videos. That's where I've learned everything. But there you go. We're put together. And that feels absolutely... What the hell did I do that for? Absolutely lovely. So what we're going to do is we're now going to take this outside. We'll chuck it over the chronograph. And we will see, what kind of power it's putting out and what the recoil is like. Okay, so we've obviously been working on our HW98. So now it's really important that we chronograph it to make sure that it's legal. Before, this gun was running around about 775 feet per second, but we've added a short stroke. So I'm expecting it to be slightly higher. But then again, we do have a new spring and a new spring guide. Now, it's important that we don't just check the power now, that we leave it a few days and we shoot the gun a little bit and we keep on checking it to make sure it's not creeping up. Now, obviously, if we're close to the limit, we might have to think about reducing the size of the spring, but let's see how we go. Get nicely lined up. Okay, 770 feet per second. That's good. I expect it to climb slightly more. We've got no power washers in, and with a new gun, I never want to run it too hard or too high to the legal limit, which is obviously 800 feet per second with 8.44 grain pellets. So let's try a few more. $7.58. $7.64. We're climbing up a couple of feet per second. We'll try one more. 763. So we're within 3 or 4 feet per second of where we need to be. Seems to be really consistent. I can also tell that short stroke kit has really improved the lock time. Now, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really sure about it. Now, I know we don't have a scope on, but if you just look at the front of the barrel, how much recoil there is. There's virtually none. The rifle's coming straight back. It's not going up and down or left or right. Well, I think we'll leave the video there. Please like, share and subscribe. We're going to do another video where we're going to try and put a silencer or a muzzle weight on, preferably one that won't get us into a lot of trouble. Thanks for joining us today. Please, as ever, if you are as incompetent as me or you're not 100% sure what you're doing, speak to a qualified gunsmith. I've had a lot of fun doing this, but when I nearly took out the window in the conservatory, I'd forgotten how much potential energy is within one of these rifles, and I nearly made a very big mistake. So please join me next time, and I think we'll do a shooting video, which is actually something I can do. I think we'll leave the gunsmithing alone for a little bit, but don't worry, I'll keep you up to date on the HW98, and thanks for joining us. Take care of yourselves, look after each other, shoot straight. Thank you from Life at the Range. Ta-da!